Listen, there was a moment in your life when you were done settling, done making excuses, done watching everybody else rise while you stood still. There was a moment, you remember it, when life hit you so hard you had to make a decision, either stay where you were or fight your way out. And in that moment, with all the frustration, all the pain, all the disappointment weighing on your chest, you made a promise to yourself, a real promise, a personal covenant, a line you swore you would never cross again. You told yourself, asterisk, I will never go back to that version of me. I will never live like that again. I will never let myself fall that low again. Asterisk, but somewhere along the way, life got noisy, responsibilities stacked up. Doubt started whispering, distractions started pulling, and slowly, without even noticing, you drifted away from the version of you that made that promise, not because you're weak, not because you don't want it, but because it's easy to forget how hungry you were when life gets comfortable. It's easy to forget the fire when things aren't burning, but you've got to go back. You've got to return to that moment when your spirit said, asterisk, enough, asterisk, you made that promise when it hurt. And let me tell you something, the promises you make in pain are the ones that reveal who you really are. Because when everything is falling apart, when you feel unseen, when you feel like you're running in circles, that's when your soul speaks truth. You weren't pretending in that moment. You weren't motivated by hype. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You were desperate for change. You were tired of losing. You were tired of disappointing yourself. You were tired of waking up every day feeling like you were meant for more but living like you were less. So why would you break the promise you made when you were at your lowest? Now that you're stronger, now that you've survived things people don't even know about, now that you've walked through storms that tried to destroy you, you owe it to yourself to honor the promise that kept you alive. That promise was the spark. That promise was the beginning. That promise was the moment you decided your life wasn't going to end in failure. You've got to remember how it felt to be overlooked, underestimated, ignored. You've got to remember how it felt when nobody believed in you, because that's the energy that birthed the promise. That's the version of you that had nothing but faith. That's the version of you that said, asterisk, I don't have a plan yet, but I'm not staying here. Asterisk, and now, look at you, you've come so far from that moment. But you're not done. You're nowhere near done. You made a promise to yourself that you would grow, that you would evolve, that you would break every chain that held you back. And you can't abandon that just because it got hard. You can't walk away from your promise because the journey is longer than you expected. You can't retreat just because the dream hasn't shown up on your timeline. Promises aren't made for convenience, they're made for commitment. You told yourself you were going to finish school. You told yourself you were going to start that business. You told yourself you were going to get healthy, get focused, get disciplined. You told yourself you were going to break generational cycles. You told yourself you were going to prove that you were built for something greater. And deep down, you still know it. That promise didn't disappear, it just got buried under life. But hear me, you can't bury what was meant to build you. That promise wasn't made to be forgotten. That promise is your anchor, your reminder, your blueprint. When you feel lost, go back to it. When you feel tired, go back to it. When you feel unmotivated, go back to it. Because the version of you that made that promise was honest. They saw your potential even when you didn't have proof. They believed in your future even when all you had was failure. And now you're thinking about quitting. Now you're thinking about slowing down. Now you're thinking about settling for good enough. No. You can't do that. You made a promise to the most important person in your life, yourself. You can't break that. Not now. Not after everything you've survived. Not after everything you've built. Not after everything you've endured. You owe it to yourself to finish what you started. You owe it to yourself to honor the vow you made when you were broken. You owe it to yourself to see what happens if you stay loyal to your dream. You owe it to yourself to become the person you promised you'd be. Because the truth is, quitting now would break the heart of the person you used to be. You made that promise, but a promise without discipline is just a sentence. It sounds good, it feels good, it gives you that spark for a moment, but if you don't follow it up with daily action, it fades just like every other dream you've talked about. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you told yourself you would become. And if you're serious about honoring that promise, then discipline can't be optional. It has to be your lifestyle. You can't keep saying, I'm committed, when you're only consistent on the days that feel easy. You can't keep saying, I want change, when you're still choosing the same habits that created your past. The truth is, you don't get to keep your promise on Monday and forget about it on Thursday. You don't get to be strong for 2 weeks and then disappear for 2 months. Your promise only means something when your actions match your words. That means getting up when you're tired. That means showing up when you don't feel like it. That means refusing to negotiate with yourself, because the future you want doesn't care about your mood, it cares about your discipline. And discipline doesn't look attractive. It's not glamorous. It's not something people applaud you for every day. Discipline is you by yourself at 4 a.m. reminding yourself why you started. Discipline is you saying no to what feels good and yes to what's going to grow you. Discipline is turning off your phone, turning down the noise, and turning up the focus. Discipline is fighting your old habits like they're enemies trying to steal your future. You say you want to keep the promise you made to yourself, but let me ask you, do your daily decisions reflect that promise? Are you acting like the person you said you were going to become? Are you working like your dream depends on you, because it does? Your promise will not come alive just because you believe in it. It will come alive because you work for it. You push for it, you sacrifice for it. You wake up even on the darkest days and you say, I might not feel powerful today, but I'm going to act powerful. Discipline is doing what needs to be done long after the feeling that made you start is gone. Anybody can be motivated in the beginning. Anybody can be fired up for a week. But discipline, that's what separates the ones who talk from the ones who transform. That's what separates the ones who wish from the ones who win. And if you said you were going to change your life, then discipline is the proof that you meant it. Every decision you make either keeps you closer to your promise or pulls you away from it. Discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about being committed. It's about saying, I may fall, but I'm not staying down. I may get tired, but I'm not tapping out. I may struggle, but I won't stop showing up. That's discipline. That's loyalty. That's what honoring your promise looks like. Some days you're not going to feel motivated. Some days you're not going to feel strong. Some days life is going to hit you so hard you'll wonder why you even started. But discipline isn't emotional, it's intentional. It's you deciding, I'm going to do this because my future depends on it. It's you refusing to let your feelings dictate your destiny. When you keep showing up, when you keep grinding, when you keep choosing the hard thing over the easy thing you're telling yourself, I refuse to break the promise I made. And slowly, day by day, discipline starts to build a new version of you. One you're proud of, one that's stronger, wiser, more focused, more resilient, one that can handle the weight of the life you asked for. Your promise is the spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps it alive. And if you're willing to stay disciplined, truly disciplined, you're going to see everything you once prayed for start moving in your direction. Because the truth is, discipline is the proof you gave your word and meant it. You've got to understand something deep. Not everyone was meant to understand the promise you made to yourself. They weren't there when you were crying in silence. They weren't there when you felt lost, empty, or invisible. They didn't hear the conversations you had with your own soul. They didn't feel that fire burning in your chest when you said, I'm done living like this. They weren't in the room when you made that promise, so stop expecting them to respect it. Some people will look at you crazy when you start changing. They'll say you're acting different, you're distant, you're too focused. But that's because they're used to the version of you who tolerated everything. They're used to the version of you who always said yes, who always made time, who always gave more than you had. But listen, when you make a promise to yourself, not everybody gets access to the new you. Some people were only meant to walk with the version of you that didn't know their worth. You've got to protect your promise like it's sacred, because it is. Your promise is fragile. In the beginning, it's like a seed. And seeds don't grow in toxic soil. Seeds don't grow where there's no light, no support, no nourishment. Some environments, some people, some conversations, they don't feed your promise, they suffocate it. So if you want that promise to take root, you need to start protecting your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. And sometimes protecting your promise means walking alone for a season. It means sitting by yourself at night, working while everyone else is partying. It means letting go of friendships that keep you stuck in old habits. It means ignoring opinions from people who aren't building anything in their own lives. You can't expect someone who's afraid of growth to celebrate you for growing. You can't expect someone who's comfortable being average to support you in becoming exceptional. You've got people in your life who love you, but they don't understand the vision. They don't understand why you're pushing so hard. They don't understand why you talk differently, move differently, think differently, and that's okay. It wasn't their promise. It wasn't their battle. It wasn't their breakthrough. You owe them nothing, but you owe yourself everything. Every time you let someone talk you out of your dream, you break your promise. Every time you shrink yourself to make someone comfortable, you break your promise. Every time you let someone who isn't disciplined distract you, you break your promise. And deep down, it's not even them you're upset with, it's yourself. Because you know you gave them the access they never earned. Listen, if someone isn't feeding your promise, they're draining it. There is no in between. Some people bring you peace, others bring you pressure. Some people push you forward, others pull you backward. And you've got to be honest about who belongs in your life and who belongs in your past. You can love people and still outgrow them. You can appreciate someone's role in your story and still understand that their chapter in your life is over. You're not being rude, you're not being selfish, you're being loyal to your future, and loyalty to your future always requires boundaries in your present. Some people get the new you only if they respect the promise you made. If they don't, they lose access. Simple, because your promise is too big, too personal, too sacred to be mishandled by people who don't see your worth. Think about where you're headed. Think about the version of you you're becoming. Think about the life you want to build. That person you're trying to become. They don't entertain drama. They don't waste energy. They don't explain themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them. They don't shrink to fit. They don't negotiate their standards. They protect their peace because their peace protects their promise. And once you get serious about your promise, you stop wanting to be around people who aren't serious about theirs. You stop craving validation. You stop chasing approval. You stop bending your life to match people who aren't even trying. You start craving growth, vision, responsibility, discipline, elevation, and anybody who doesn't align with that direction simply can't go where you're going. So protect your promise, guard your energy, close the door on anything and anyone that threatens the future you're building, because the truth is, your promise was never meant to be shared, only kept. Your future is not some distant dream waiting for luck. It's waiting for you to keep your word. Every time you said, I'm going to change, a stronger version of you was created in the unseen. Every time you said, I'm done with this, a future version of you took one step forward. Every time you said, I'm better than this, the life you truly want moved closer. Your future self is real, already built, already powerful, already walking in purpose, but you can only meet that version of you if you honor the promise you made. The life you want is not avoiding you. It's waiting on you, waiting on your consistency, waiting on your discipline, waiting on your follow-through, waiting on you to finally decide that quitting is no longer an option. And that's the hard part, because the future version of you only becomes reachable when you stop living like the old version of you. You can't keep saying you want a new life while holding on to the habits that built the life you're trying to escape. You can't keep saying you want better while living like you don't deserve better. Your future self is watching you right now, watching the decisions you make, watching the energy you bring, watching whether you stand on your promise or fold under pressure. That future version of you is saying, "Come on, I'm right here. You're closer than you think." But every time you break your promise, the distance grows, not because the future is moving, but because you stop. You have no idea who you could become if you just stayed loyal. You have no idea how strong you could be if you kept showing up. You have no idea how much your life could change if you kept your promise for one full year. Not halfway, not when it feels good, not when you're inspired, but day after day, moment after moment, decision after decision. Your future self isn't built by motivation, it's built by momentum. It's built by doing the things you don't feel like doing. It's built by honoring your promise on the days when the world says you shouldn't. And understand this, you are not just keeping the promise for yourself. You're keeping it for the people who believe in you, for the ones coming after you, for the child version of you who needed someone to become the person you are trying to be. You keeping your promise means someone in your family will experience opportunities you never had. You keeping your promise means you break cycles your parents couldn't break. You keeping your promise means you turn pain into power, struggle into strength, and sacrifice into legacy. Your future self is depending on you to stop living small, to stop shrinking your vision to make others comfortable, to stop dimming your light because someone else is afraid to shine. Your future self is depending on you to rise, to evolve, to take ownership of your life. And that starts with honoring your word. When you said, "I'm going to change," that wasn't a suggestion, that was a contract. When you said, "I'm going to be better," that wasn't wishful thinking, that was the beginning of a transformation. You made a promise to yourself, and your future self is waiting for you to show up and claim it. Waiting for you to walk like you deserve the life you dream about. Waiting for you to act like the person you said you would become. Waiting for you to stop letting fear control you. Waiting for you to stop letting comfort cripple you. Waiting for you to stop living at the level of your excuses and start living at the level of your potential. Your future self is powerful, confident, focused, disciplined, successful, not because life magically got easier, but because you stopped giving up, because you stopped negotiating your promise, because you stopped letting temporary feelings destroy permanent goals, because you finally understood that your future is the reward for the promises you kept, not the ones you talked about. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you move closer. Every time you keep going when it hurts, you move closer. Every time you silence the doubt, ignore the noise, and trust your vision, you move closer. And one day, if you stay true, you're going to look in the mirror and realize you made it. Not because someone rescued you, not because luck found you, but because you honored the promise you made when you were broken. And when you finally meet that future version of you, the one who's living free, living strong, living fulfilled, you're going to thank yourself for not quitting. You're going to thank yourself for fighting through the days no one saw. You're going to thank yourself for refusing to break the promise you made when your soul cried out for more. Because the truth is, your future becomes real the moment you decide to keep your word.